The waters of Lake Erie can be treacherous, shifting from calm to chaotic in the blink of an eye. On May 15, 1957, the sky above Rocky River, Ohio, turned a bruised purple, warning of an incoming storm. Despite the ominous weather reports and warnings from local boatmen, a 30-year-old cookware salesman named Lawrence Joseph Bader insisted on renting a 14-foot boat. He kissed his pregnant wife, Mary Lou, goodbye earlier that day, telling her he had business in Cleveland and might go fishing. He pushed off into the chop, the small motor sputtering against the rising wind. He was never seen alive in Ohio again. Larry Bader was, by all accounts, a man living the American dream, or perhaps, the American stress nightmare. He was a charming, fast-talking salesman for the Reynolds Metals Corporation, seemingly making a good living. But beneath the surface, the water was rising. He was over $20,000 in debt, a small fortune in 1957. He hadn't paid his federal income taxes in years, his mortgage was overdue, and the pressure of providing for 3 children, with a 4th on the way, was crushing. When his empty boat was found the next day after the storm, battered and missing an oar, with the gas lines suspiciously disconnected, investigators and family members were left with a haunting question: was this a tragedy, or an escape? The Coast Guard swept the lake for days. They found his fishing tackle, a life preserver, and the boat, but no body. The conclusion was logical but grim. Larry Bader had been swept overboard and drowned in the violent squall. His wife, Mary Lou, was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered life. She had no income, massive debts, and a grieving family. In 1960, Lawrence Bader was legally declared dead, and his life insurance money was paid out to his widow. The books were closed on Larry Bader. But 4 days after he vanished, a ghost walked into a bar 800 miles away. In Omaha, Nebraska, a man pushed open the doors of the Round Table Bar. He was charismatic, lively, and sported a distinct mustache. He introduced himself as John Francis Johnson, but he told everyone to call him Fritz. He had no past, or at least, he claimed not to remember one. He said he was raised in an orphanage in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and had just been discharged from the Navy. There was no record of a Fritz Johnson in the Navy, but nobody in the bar cared. Fritz was electric. He told jokes, bought rounds, and within minutes, he wasn't a stranger, he was a local fixture. Fritz Johnson didn't just blend in, he exploded onto the scene. He needed money, so he took a job as a bartender. But serving drinks wasn't enough for his larger-than-life personality. To raise money for a polio charity, Fritz spent 30 days sitting on top of a flagpole. He became a local sensation. The stunt caught the attention of local media, and soon, the man with no past was the voice of the city. He landed a job at radio station KBON and later became the sports director for KETV Channel 7. Throughout the early 1960s, Fritz Johnson became one of Omaha's most beloved celebrities. He hosted a television segment called The Good News of the Day. He was the life of every party, a man who seemed to have been born for the spotlight. He was an expert archer, winning the Nebraska State Archery Championship. He was everything Larry Bader had been, charming, gregarious, active, but amplified. He showed no signs of the financial stress or the dark secrets that had plagued the cookware salesman from Akron. To the people of Omaha, Fritz Johnson was simply a star. His eccentricity was legendary. Fritz didn't drive a sedan or a sports car, he bought an old hearse. He converted the back into a mobile lounge, complete with pillows, a velvet interior, and a fully stocked tiki bar. He called it his hunting vehicle, and drove it around Omaha, waving to fans. It was a macabre joke that nobody understood at the time. A man who was legally dead, driving a vehicle designed for the dead, living a life more vibrant than anyone else in town. Fritz didn't stay a bachelor for long. In 1961, he met Nancy Zimmer, a 20-year-old divorcee and former model. They fell in love and married. Fritz adopted Nancy's daughter, and soon they had a son of their own. For 7 years, Fritz Johnson built a complete life, a career, a wife, a family, a home. He was a pillar of the community. But the human body has a way of keeping score, and a dark physical toll was about to be paid. In 1964, Fritz began suffering from severe headaches and vision problems. Doctors discovered a malignant tumor behind his left eye. The surgery was brutal. Fritz lost the eye. Undeterred and ever the showman, he began wearing a black eye patch, which only added to his piratical, swashbuckling persona. He joked about it on air. But some medical experts would later theorize that this tumor might have been the key to the entire mystery, pressing on the areas of the brain that control memory and identity. The two parallel lines of Larry Bader and Fritz Johnson were destined to intersect. In February 1965, Fritz traveled to Chicago for a sporting goods convention to demonstrate archery equipment. It was a massive event, drawing enthusiasts from all over the Midwest. Among the crowd was a man from Akron, Ohio, who stopped dead in his tracks. He saw a one-eyed man with a mustache demonstrating a bow, but he didn't see Fritz Johnson. He saw Larry Bader. The acquaintance couldn't believe his eyes. Larry Bader had been dead for 8 years. He immediately called Larry's niece, Suzanne Pica, who was living in Chicago. "You have to come down here," he told her. "I think I found your Uncle Larry." Suzanne was skeptical but curious. She went to the convention center and approached the booth. She watched the man for a moment, studying his mannerisms, his laugh, the way he held the bow. She walked up to him and looked him in the single remaining eye. "Pardon me," Suzanne said, her voice trembling. "But aren't you my Uncle Larry Bader, who disappeared 7 years ago?" Fritz Johnson looked at her with a polite, confused smile. He laughed it off. "I'm sorry, miss, you have the wrong man. My name is Fritz Johnson." He wasn't defensive. He was genuinely amused. He denied knowing her, denied knowing Akron, and denied being Larry Bader. But Suzanne wasn't convinced. She called Larry's 2 brothers in Ohio. The Bader brothers flew to Chicago immediately. They confronted Fritz, who remained calm and cooperative. He agreed to a fingerprint comparison to settle the matter once and for all. He was confident. He knew who he was. He was Fritz Johnson, the TV anchorman from Omaha. He had nothing to hide. The prints were taken and sent to the FBI, where Larry Bader's military service records were on file. The results came back like a thunderclap. The fingerprints were a perfect match. Fritz Johnson was Lawrence Joseph Bader. The revelation sent shockwaves through 2 cities. In Omaha, Nancy Johnson discovered her husband was a man she never knew. In Akron, Mary Lou Bader discovered her dead husband was alive, famous, and married to another woman. When the police told Fritz the news, he didn't confess. He didn't break down. He sat there in stunned silence, describing the feeling as a physical shock, like a door slamming in my face. The legal and emotional fallout was catastrophic. Fritz's marriage to Nancy was instantly voided because he was still legally married to Mary Lou. Mary Lou, a devout Catholic, had been dating and was engaged to be married, but the resurrection of her husband meant she could not remarry in the church. She also faced financial ruin. The insurance company wanted the death benefit money back. Larry, or Fritz, was now a bigamist, a tax evader, and a man with 2 families who were strangers to each other. A team of psychiatrists examined him for 10 days. They probed his mind, looking for cracks in the facade. Was it a hoax? A long con to escape debt? Or was it a dissociative fugue? A rare psychological state where the mind, overwhelmed by stress, simply wipes the slate clean and creates a new identity? The experts were divided, but many concluded that Fritz was telling the truth. He genuinely had no memory of Larry Bader. The tumor, they suggested, might have played a role, or perhaps the psychological burden of his debts had caused a total break from reality. Fate, however, is rarely kind. Just as the mystery of his mind was being unraveled, his body began to fail. The cancer that had taken his eye returned with a vengeance, metastasizing to his liver. The man who had lived 2 full lives was running out of time on his second one. He never regained his memory. He died on September 16, 1966, at the age of 39. To this day, the question remains unanswered. Did Larry Bader fake his death to escape his debts, using the storm as a perfect cover, only to be trapped by his own lie? Or did the trauma and the tumor truly erase Lawrence Bader, giving birth to Fritz Johnson? He took the truth to his grave, leaving behind 2 widows, 2 families, and a legend of a man who walked out of the water and became someone else,